Luigi as well. So maybe don't do stuff like that. Maybe don't, and I'll close with this. Limit coverage of prosthetic limbs because you say they're not medically necessary. Maybe don't do ridiculous, insane things if you don't want to drive people into insane rages against you. Anyway, but that said, that's all the time we have for the show today. Brett, as always, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much.
Check me and John out on Don't Die, a documentary on Netflix. It's mostly all about us.
And
it's comical that we're only in it for a few seconds in a documentary I just said was all about us. But it's only for a few seconds and you're gonna love it.
You can still learn a lot from me. My quest to not die involves mostly eating highly processed foods. I wanna make myself as processed as possible so I'll have an indefinite shelf life.
And you could be this person when we show up. You could be Leo DiCaprio. I know him. I know them.
There you go. You can do that. Okay, everybody, I'm gonna be on the first hour of the Young Turks later on. Definitely check us out there. With that said, thank you. We'll see you next time. For now, though, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and we'll see you soon.
Welcome to Indisputable. I'm Sharon Reed, in for Dr. Rashad Ritchie. And I tell you, my favorite people are associated with this network. I think they're my friends. At least this is what I like to think. Yeah, maybe we don't call each other much, But you're my friend. Yasmin Aliya Khan is our special guest co-host today. And I just think you're a superstar. You're wonderful. And I love that we get to do the show today. Tell me first, before we launch into this, you guys are dealing with some weather down there, right?
In Houston, we're actually okay. We're actually better off than most people are in the state of Texas. Dallas got it pretty bad. They got a lot of snow up there. Here, we got not quite freezing temperatures, just above freezing. A lot of rain. It rained almost the entire night last night, and we got a lot of wind. So could be worse, but it's not pleasant. But I really, of all people in this country right now, I'm the last one to complain. But you got some snow in Atlanta, didn't you?
Got a few inches. Looking outside my office window now, a lot of snow on the ground. But of course, I agree with you. We have nothing to complain about. We have people on the West Coast who are still dealing with those deadly fires that have consumed so much of the area, and people are afraid. So we'll continue to think about our friends on the West Coast. And in the meantime, let's launch into this one. I guess this is what victory looks like when you are the incoming leader of the free world, a privileged white man. Trump gets no jail time, no penalties for hush money conviction, but he is still convicted. Donald Trump was sentenced without penalty in the New York hush money trial. The case, this happened Friday after a symbolic and historic unprecedented hearing following the first felony conviction of a former and soon-to-be sitting president. He was desperate that this should not happen. Even calling Alito. Not about this, though. Judge Juan Merchan spoke to Trump for several minutes, telling the president-elect that it was the office of the presidency and not the occupant that was afforded extraordinary legal protections, requiring him to impose a sentence of unconditional discharge without any punishment. Merchan already signaled he would not sentence Trump to any punishment, let alone jail time. That's something the U.S. Supreme Court noted when it allowed the hearing to go forward in a 5-4 ruling Thursday night over Trump's objections. That didn't make Friday's sentencing any less significant or embarrassing for Trump, who was allowed to appear virtually from his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida. Trump chose to speak before Merchan imposed his sentence, showing zero contrition, launching into the same attacks against the political witch hunt that he's been claiming since he was first indicted more than 20 months ago. Trump was convicted in May on 34 counts, falsifying business records. While he has vowed to keep fighting that conviction through the appeals courts, Friday's sentencing cements the fact that Trump will be the first convicted felon to become president 10 days from now. CNN with some of the reporting here. Now, the unconditional discharge, that sentence cements the president-elect's status as a convicted felon, though Trump now walks freely away from the case without any threat of punishment, fines, or probationary supervision. The sentence essentially serves as a final judgment in the case, procedurally allowing Trump and his attorneys to move forward with his appeals. Though the president-elect won't be penalized in the hush money case, he has made it clear he wants the conviction tossed. We're going to appeal anyway, just psychologically, because frankly, it's a disgrace. It's a judge that shouldn't have been on the case, Trump said from Mar-a-Lago on Thursday night. While he's in office, Trump's attorneys are expected to exhaust every legal avenue to continue fighting that conviction, a process that will likely take years. Now that Merchan has entered a final judgment at sentencing, Trump's legal team can file a substantive appeal with the state appellate court. Trump's top defense attorneys, however, are set to enter his administration. Todd Blanche, who was sitting beside Trump on Friday, has been tapped as deputy attorney general. Emil Bove, who appeared in the Manhattan courtroom on Trump's behalf, was picked to be the principal associate attorney general. The lower appeals court upholds the jury's verdict. Trump then can ask the Court of Appeals, New York's highest court, to consider his case. If his appeals fails in New York, he can then take the case up to the U.S. Supreme Court, a move that he is expected to pursue if all other efforts are not successful. And I believe, yes, that's where this thing will ultimately land. I referenced Justice Alito, who it was reported Trump happened to call about another matter right before they made their decision, something about an employment referral, somebody who had clerked for, did something for the justice like a dozen years earlier. Not suspicious or anything. But how significant is it? How should we frame this, take this? How should history look upon this, given that after everything he's done and is now convicted, no fines? Look how he behaved in the case. No jail time, just a little speech at the end that he had to listen to remotely. And by the way, he gave another one of his falsehood speeches right before he was sentenced. What say you?
Yeah, there's a lot of feelings about this. We've never had to deal with something like this in our country before, where we had a president who was serving for 4 years and then did some other stuff in his private business life and then got reelected to the presidency 4 years later. And in that time was convicted of 34 felony counts, right? So this is all very unprecedented in the most bizarre way. We're all living through it. We're all seeing it. None of what happened today was surprising, really, right? Because the judge did signal in advance that this is probably what was going to happen. The reality is Trump wanted this sentencing postponed until after the inauguration. This was supposed to happen before the election, and he was able to get it postponed until after the election. He wanted it postponed until after the inauguration, which would have meant that the judge would have had to wait until Trump had concluded his second term in office before he could sentence him, which was not ideal. But the reality of the situation is that he's not going to serve any kind of jail time, right? Because within 10 days or so, he's going to be inaugurated as our president again. So it's so bizarre and it's very difficult to wrap your head around. People are celebrating the fact that, he is our felony, or he was convicted of felonies as he goes into our presidency. So he's our first felon president. People are thinking maybe he'll be embarrassed by that. That'll be like a stain on his record. He doesn't care, right? He's already been twice impeached. He already all these things have already happened to him. He's already been convicted of sexual assault and all kinds of things. And he was still reelected into this position. He has suffered no real world consequences. So people can say whatever they want about him. They can call him dumb. They can call him immature. They can say, you're this, you're that. You were twice impeached. Now you're a felon. He doesn't care. He's still going to get to where he wants to go. And that is his only focus. And not just his focus, but all the people who support him in government, all these billionaires who want him there, all these big capitalists, Mark Zuckerberg, who I know we're going to talk about later on the show, Elon Musk, who have dumped, millions, hundreds of millions of dollars into his presidential campaign. He's there for them. He's their pawn. So it doesn't matter that he's a felon as long as he's the one in charge on January 20th.
Yeah, and I just think it's interesting when you talk about just the American people, right? Mm-hmm. It's interesting how rooted in hypocrisy this country is. This is a country that allowed Donald Trump to talk so much about felons and convicts. America doesn't like felons and convicts and doesn't want them to be able to vote or participate or escape a record. So many wrongly accused, some rightly convicted. And yet, the minute this rich, born with a silver spoon in his mouth, inheritance, white privileged man is convicted, it's suddenly he deserves to be the face of the Innocence Project. He deserves to be the one that everyone holds up as this beacon of fighting spirit against all odds. They rig the system against me. He is the poster child for this. Mm-hmm. America is just, I know so much of our history is whitewashed, but this is just so rich, expected, but rich. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. People make all kinds of allowances for rich people because, as you said, they are beacons, right? They're beacons of the American dream, for better or for worse. They're beacons of, I can pull myself up by my bootstraps. If he can do it, I can do it. And he's obviously so successful that that's why all these other people want to take him down. There is nothing that is a victim about Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump has victimized so many people, not only in his personal life, but also in his business world and now in his political life, right? So many people are desperate to be out of his realm of influence, including, half of the American people at this point. And, now people around the world are worried about his influence and what he could do. But the American psyche is kind of brainwashed in the sense that we celebrate business, we celebrate money, we celebrate wealth, we celebrate things like acquisition, we celebrate winning. And if we see somebody who is doing all those things, then we say that's our hero. And really, those people are the ones who are hurting most Americans in this country. Most people, right? Like 99%, right? If the 1% is the one who are victimizing the rest of us are in that. Of course, the 99%, the people who suck up and are sycophantic to people like Donald Trump and Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, they say, look, if they could do it, I can do it. But the reality is, I know you're not going to do it, at least not now. Maybe there was a window of opportunity where you could have done that, but it's not going to happen for you.
Nope. That's it. This is what you want? You said dictator day one is fine by you. Well, you're about to see. He can show us better, perhaps, than he can tell us. So no prisons, not even probation. Probation is like a lifelong sentence, the way they tie people up in the system, right? When you're on probation, any little, violation, once you're in the system, but not this guy. And having beaten the system, what does he do? He says he's going to go after Liz Cheney and all these other people. Take the win, bruh. Okay, now another annoyance, because he's just not sincere. He's not sincere. Boy, the testimony at one time he was before Congress, ridiculous. I wish they would have made him cry. That's how much damage he's done, if he's even capable. Zuckerberg met with Trump just before ending Meta's fact-checking. Again, I'm sure there's no coincidence here. Mark Zuckerberg met with Donald Trump just before announcing an end to fact-checking, per GOP Senator Mark Wayne Mullen. Play this.
Mark met with President Trump the day before he made the announcement that they were going to change the way that they do censorship, essentially. The big announcement that he made the other day. Mm-hmm. President Trump and him spoke about that. And Mark has been down to see the president several times already. Wow. Mark has actually reached out to me, texted me a couple times. The guy's got into jiu-jitsu real heavy. He wants me to come down there and roll with him. He wants to train. He actually wants to get in a cage and fight. He said, I'd love for you to come down and spar with me sometime. I think that'd be great to go down there and do that. So a lot of these people have changed, because here's what I told the president Trump is that.
Wait a second. Senator, you get a chance to kick Mark Zuckerberg's ass? Senator.
Let me make sure you.
Can you imagine being at a cocktail party with these people and having to double over with laughter at their really dumb jokes and enthusiasm? That's when I don't really drink. That's when I would drink. Can I have a double? So when I first saw this next clip, I thought it was a parody. That's how ridiculous it was. I thought, well, what is this? What has social media done now? It was real. Here's Mark Zuckerberg's announcement.
The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. More specifically, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US.
You see why I thought it was a parody? First of all, it looks like a hostage video that someone is just off camera threatening him with a powerful weapon, very high-powered, high-caliber weapon. That's what it looks like. I'm not saying that's what was done. Here, the weapon, though, is greed. You want more? You better capitulate. So Zuckerberg's pivot to a non-fact-checking policy has been seen as one of several steps he's taken to ingratiate himself with the president-elect, perhaps motivated by an antitrust trial set for April. Maybe Mediaite, with some of the reporting here, perhaps there's no coincidence, but it sure seems like it. Meta set up one of the most extensive partnerships with fact checkers after the 2016 presidential election, in which Russia spread false claims on Facebook and other online platforms. Company created what has become a standard for how tech platforms limit the spread of falsehoods and misleading information. NPR with that. Still, a lot of people complain. I think it's going to go the other way, but we'll talk about it on the other end of giving you more. In the 2020 election, though, the COVID pandemic, that accelerated a backlash among conservatives who cast content moderation as a form of censorship. I thought they liked censorship. Facebook, along with Twitter and YouTube, banned Trump from their platforms after the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol, but eventually allowed him to return ahead of his second run for office. Recent years, fact checkers, researchers of false narratives and social media content moderation programs have become targets of Republican-led congressional probes and legal challenges. Zuckerberg said his views on content moderation have changed. He's evolved. Meta has made too many mistakes in how it applied its content policies, he said, and pointed to Trump's election to a second term as a, quote, cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. Again, the hypocrisy, I note. MAGA Republicans love to curtail free speech, protest, books, banned. They love it. What I was going to say, though, Yaz, is I don't think it's just that they're not going to do this kind of content moderation. You start sounding off on one Donald Trump and he doesn't like it, I have a feeling the analytics will not go in your favor. What say you?
Yeah, the more these billionaires and these tech people try to capitulate to Donald Trump's whims and to what he wants, the more they're going to suffer because they're never going to make him happy. Mark Zuckerberg, I think, has lost control of this thing that he has built. And part of the reason why I think that is because he is capitulating to people like Donald Trump. He's saying, if this is what Trump wants, I'll do it, even if it doesn't make any sense, right? I think he likes to pretend like he's still in control, but I just don't see it. I get on Facebook maybe once a week, mainly because I'm looking to see what's on Facebook Marketplace. But apart from that, there is literally nothing of value on that platform anymore. Instagram is marginally better. And these platforms are already full of bots to the point that I don't believe most of the things that I read in comment sections on that platform anymore. Now he's saying he's going to flood the platform with even more bots and fake accounts. I feel like no one wanted to be Mark Zuckerberg's friend, so he's just more comfortable with the idea of building himself AI friends, but it really goes against the idea of what a social network was supposed to be in the first place, right? He also acts like he is so concerned with free speech, and that's the reason why he's doing all of this. But free speech is different from intentionally spreading disinformation. He has modeled his new community notes policy after what is going on X, Sharon. Like, that's crazy. Elon Musk has been called a disinformation super spreader. He is not what you should be modeling your free speech, no censorship model after in the first place. It is absolutely the worst. I hope it has strong repercussions for him and for the business. I hope that people say, I don't even want to be on this platform anymore. I'm already off of it. I know a lot. I don't really know anybody who still actively uses Facebook anymore. I know a lot of people on Instagram still, including myself, but it's just not fun anymore. And it's more stressful than it really is worth.
And the hostage video, I want to go back to that because—
The chain? You didn't like his chain?
Well, I wondered what that was. Okay, he needs a stylist, and I want people to be who they are, but I don't know what he's trying to do. But the hostage video didn't even need to be made. He's a coward, and he's greedy. Why not just release the bulletin, the announcement, the press release, whatever? I believe this hostage video was part of what Donald Trump demanded. He probably even approved the script, or his people did. That's my opinion. Because, number one, I could coach Mark Zuckerberg if I didn't find him so distasteful about how to speak to camera and how to be authentic. I could coach him on it. He has no natural talent in that way. But what do you think? Why did he choose this mode to deliver this ridiculous news? What did you say? We're going back to our roots.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad you asked because it is weird that he chose to make this video and speak directly to the people. In my mind, I think, this is just my own personal theory, I think that Mark Zuckerberg thinks that he's like really cool. I think that he thinks that people think he's really cool. I think that he thinks he has all these fanboys and sycophants out there in a similar way to Elon Musk, perhaps. But I just don't see it. Nobody looks at Mark Zuckerberg as like some cool guy. All the pictures we see of him, he is goofy as you know what. And I just don't think that the public sees him that way. I think he also is a younger person, right? He's a millennial, I believe, maybe like an older millennial, but he's just not on the same level with the rest of us. Not that he wants to be, right? He wants to be where he is. He's a billionaire. But the idea that these billionaires still think in their minds that they're relatable to the general public, Elon Musk does this too, is crazy. And the people who fall for that are also very, very delusional, maybe more delusional than these billionaires are.
Yeah, and I know they keep popping up and the media keeps giving them so much coverage. I mean, even Elon Musk's father said, ignore him, okay? It's just Elon, just don't pay attention to this guy talking. His daddy said that. But I do think it's quite rich that this guy and the jujitsu and all this nonsense, okay?
And what was he doing when he was wakeboarding with the
Yeah, stop it.
What a character. Just to make one last point, they are ridiculous and they do say a lot of crazy things, but we really can't afford to ignore them anymore, right? Like Elon Musk's father can say something like, just ignore him, right? But Elon Musk is holding the rest of us. He's holding our country hostage at this point, right? We cannot afford to ignore him. If we do, then first of all, me and you wouldn't be doing our jobs, first of all, right? But the general public, to ignore him would just be giving him free reign to do whatever he wants. And whatever he wants to do is going to have really bad consequences for the rest of us around the world, not just in this country.
Yeah. Cringy. I don't know what it is about his hair. I think people should be able to do whatever they want with their hair. I like curly hair, but I'd give him a blowout. It's something it's the whole package, and it starts with this lack of authenticity that makes me want to. It's just, and who am I? Okay. I always come with bedhead, but he's cringy. All right, we're going to move on because this won't go away. Well, it's not going to go away when you have someone down at Mar-a-Lago holding press conferences talking about it, about how he's going to take over Greenland. Donald Trump interested in buying Greenland and taking over Canada. These are your headlines. They're real. Trump refuses to rule out military force to acquire Greenland and the Panama Canal. Who will join this fight? I suspect you'd see 1 million desertions, or people aren't going to go. And you wonder why young people say, we're not down with that. We're not going to join. Because this is what you're doing. This is what you're doing. President-elect Donald Trump on Tuesday repeatedly declined to rule out involving the U.S. military to carry out his ambitions for the U.S. to acquire Greenland and the Panama Canal. USA Today with more of the reporting. No, Trump said during a press conference at his Mar-a-Lago, Florida home and private club when asked whether he can rule out military or economic coercion in the two locations. No, I can't assure you on either of those two things, but I can say this. We need them for economic security. The Panama Canal was built for our military. He's the commander-in-chief. Good gracious. Since winning the 2024 election, Trump has openly discussed the U.S. acquiring Greenland, mineral-rich territory controlled by Denmark, and the Panama Canal, which has been operated by Panama since 1999, following a deal orchestrated by the late President Jimmy Carter 22 years earlier. Trump has also publicly pondered the idea of Canada becoming the 51st U.S. state. Another bubble-headed idea. Okay, the Canadians are nice, but they're not that nice. They're not just going to say, oh, okay, eh? But still, he persists. I'm not going to commit to that, Trump said when asked specifically about ruling out military force to acquire the Panama Canal in Greenland. It might be that you'll have to do something. There's the threat. Trump called the Carter-era Panama Canal deal a disgrace, using the Panama Canal Authority of charging more for the entry of U.S. ships than other nations. He has said China is effectively operating the canal. Trump said the U.S. needs Greenland, which has a population of about 56,000 people, for national security purposes. He questioned whether Denmark, which has controlled Greenland since 1814, has a legal right to the territory, and predicted Greenland's people will vote to join the U.S. He warned that if Denmark does not give up Greenland, the U.S. would tariff Denmark at a very high level. Don Jr., I want you to find yourself. Junior, it must be hard living in your father's shadow. I would think it's a disgrace, but he just put up the picture. Don Jr. and my reps landing in Greenland, Trump wrote. The reception has been great. They and the free world need safety, security, strength, and peace. This is a deal that must happen. MAGA, make Greenland great again. Danish Prime Minister, has a blunt message for Trump. Danish Prime Minister said in an interview that Greenlandic Prime Minister, hope I get it right, Mute Egiv, someone will correct me, has been very, very clear that there is a lot of support among the people of Greenland, that Greenland is not for sale and will not be in the future either, according to The Hill, Fox News chiming in. All right, let's go to Scott Jennings now, and I guess we must hear what he has to say on the matter.
That Don Jr. is going to Greenland.
I want to talk about Greenland, though.
Yeah. I mean, look, everybody would like to buy Greenland, but are we going to take it by force?
I don't know. We could. There's not that many people there. But I don't think we should have to.
I suspect that Scott Jennings, because he's on the program so much, he's getting paid as a commentator. Do you know how low the bar has gone? Why not have Homer Simpson do it? Didn't the Simpsons stop their run, right, recently? Homer's available and might have more to say that is impactful than Scott Jennings. But Jesse Waters seems to be in favor of taking control of Canada as he wants to quench his imperialist thirst, his words, not ours.
We'd be adding Montana, basically, for the Republicans, and electorally like a Texas for the Democrats. Mm-hmm. And I don't like that. But the fact that they don't want us to take them over makes me want to invade. I want to quench my imperialist thirst. I get it. You say that Americans don't have a problem with Canadians, and we don't. But it seems like you have a problem with us. Because if I were a citizen of another country and I was a neighbor to the United States, I would consider it a privilege to be taken over by the United States of America. That's what everybody else in the world wants. American citizenship. For some reason, that's repellent to you Canadians. And I find that personally offensive, Premier.
Do you know if you change just a few of the words there, it's like he's talking to the women, whether you like it or not. This is what every woman wants, to be taken over. He's just changed it to Greenland. Just outrageous foolishness, as if people have no autonomy, people have no right to have a vote in their lives. They should be proud to be taken over. The women should like it. Am I wrong for, that's what it sounded like to me as.
No, you're not wrong. And that's very intentional. I just did a video about this actually for Rebel HQ. It's not out yet, but it will be soon. So everybody keep an eye out for that. But Don Jr. and Charlie Kirk just went to Greenland to do some kind of PR stunt showing all of the Greenlanders posing with Don Jr. wearing MAGA hats. Local reports found that the MAGA hats had been distributed to homeless people prior to the photo shoot. Don Jr., of course, denies that. But why would those people have MAGA hats otherwise in Greenland? But this is modern day imperialism, make no mistake. And if anyone still hasn't recognized that the United States is an empire, here it is, right? We already have military bases all over the world, whether or not those countries want our military bases there. And we still have holdings around the world. But, we call them territories because it's a little bit nicer than saying, the United States, the American, whatever, Trump has not really said why he wants to acquire Greenland or the canal, apart from some very nebulous and vague statements like China has too much control over the Panama Canal and the U.S. needs to run it, or the U.S. needs Greenland for security reasons, whatever that means. And I guess whatever the U.S. needs, in Trump's mind, the U.S. deserves to have it. the US needs Greenland either because Putin wants it for its strategic location or because Elon Musk wants it for all of that copper sitting underneath the ice sheet. But you're absolutely right. The language that is being used by people like Jesse Waters and anyone who supports this idea coming from Trump, it is very predatory, right? And then that's what it is. It's bullying language, it's predatory language. It's something that is familiar, as you said, to a lot of women. We know what that is, right? The idea that Canada should be grateful that the United States wants to overtake them, the idea that they should want to give up their autonomy to us because everybody wants to be an American, don't they? No, they don't. They really don't. A lot of people like to move here, but a lot of countries like the countries themselves, they want to be able to govern themselves. Whenever a country overtakes another country, and this is really an analogy for capitalism as well, but whenever they overtake it, all that individuality, all that autonomy, everything that is important and good to those people gets swept under this big imperial blanket, right? Mm-hmm. If you look at Russia or you look at China or even the United States, right? Every time they overtake a little piece of land throughout their entire history over centuries, right? Every time they do that, these people here, now they just become Americans or they just become Russians. Whatever culture they had before that goes away. Eventually, it just takes like a couple of generations for that to happen. So it is very sad. The United States suddenly becoming more blatantly imperialistic with this rhetoric coming out of Trump. It is very concerning, and hopefully nobody takes him seriously. But he wants these things so badly now that he is willing to go to war, as he said, with our allies, and that's very concerning.
Mr. Bone Spurs, how ironic. Wants to take young men and women to war over this. He represents the worst historical context of this country. I mean,
and so many people voted for him because he was not a warmonger like Kamala Harris is, apparently. So,
hypocrisy, confusion, not knowing one's history. You're right. You know, since the beginning, you flee because you want religious freedom, and then you land here. People are very nice to you. They share crops and knowledge, and then they start dying, and they're pushed off and told, you go over there, we're taking over everything because we can, and we are. And it's disgusting. And maybe if books weren't banned and people were allowed to know about our history, I mean, I'm not going anywhere. I love this country. I shouldn't even have to say it. But I don't like this ugliness, this disgustingness, and the embrace of it. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, one last thought on that. As far as American imperialism, there was an MP over in Greenland, and she did say, no, we know what Americans do whenever they overtake land. We saw how you treated the Alaskan natives, and we see how good they're doing now. And they're not doing well at all. They have some of the highest rates of alcoholism and diabetes in this country. And that's not even to say anything about the indigenous people of this continent that we're on.
It's who we are. At a certain point, it's not just what you're doing, it's who you are. And we'll see. Does he mean it? Oh, just ignore him. No, we've got to pay attention, okay? Because apparently he's not going away for now. This is Indisputable. Sharon Reed alongside Yasmin Aliya Khan, one of our faves. We'll get into what she's up to lately. She's got so many projects going. And Dr. Richie has the day off, but we'll return. We hope you'll stay with us.
I went to Kentucky Fried Chicken when I first got my license, like 17 years old or 17, 18, whatever it was. And I'm driving, I think, my dad's Oldsmobile. And I parked it in a place where there was two cars next to me, really tight spot, and a car behind me. I don't even know how I got in there because I'm a terrible driver. Back then I was an even worse driver. And on the roads I'm okay, but in parking spots, I have terrible spatial reasoning and I'm a mess. And on my way out, I hit all three cars at once. I broke all records, okay? So I went, as I'm backing out, I went boom, oh, and this side hit that car, this side hit this car, and the back hit the third car, okay? And I got stuck. I didn't know how to get out. Like, I went, okay, this, and then I'm like, no, and then, right? And then finally I had to stop, go inside the KFC and go, A, I'm sorry, I hit a bunch of your cars. They're like, what do you mean a bunch of your cars? I'm like, I don't know.
Wow, there's a B?
Yeah. I'm like, I hit 3 cars. I don't know. So you guys got to come help me, okay? Okay, so one, my bad. Really sorry about that. Okay, number 2, can someone take my car out? Because I don't want to keep hitting your cars, and I'm incapable of taking it out of this spot.
Now, baby, move that fat, baby, move that fat. We thugged out.
Hi, I'm Brett Ehrlich with breaking news with Brett Ehrlich. This is breaking news with Brett Ehrlich. Hi, Brett Ehrlich here. According to EPA head Scott Pruitt, climate change is not happening. He cited a meme on Facebook he saw. When pressed to back up this source, he said it must be accurate because the watermark said it was made by a scientist. So, your move, Truth.
Do all of you know the Young Turks?
An outlet like yourself that are willing to cover this story from the very beginning.
You have the Young Turks and a bunch of other progressive forces saying this is the time to fight for our values.
And I think right now there are a lot of progressive voters, many leftists who feel like they don't have a home.
And this is why what Cenk and the Young Turks are doing is so important.
What we've done is sustainable, slow, healthy growth. And I think that's the way news should be, where you don't rely on sensationalist stuff. You don't lean on whatever's trendy in the news at any given moment. You know, you just go with the truth.
You gave me a platform.
You've uplifted so many other progressive voices through this network, and you're constantly looking for people that you can amplify through the work we do, through the infrastructure that you built at TYT.
It takes those early people who believe that can really be the seeds of this movement, and that has been the Young Turks.
We're super serious about the news. We also managed to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We're not TYT, you're TYT.
You are the media revolution. You are much needed.
TYT, TYT.
The place is like 95% TYT on.
Favorite channel, we're getting that message out.
Cenk and the Young Turks do an extraordinarily good job.
No matter what mainstream media says, you have to listen to the Young Turks.
The people who support us on the internet, that's what gives us strength. That's what allows anyone who was in there who was undecided to think one side seems to be winning, they seem to have a bigger army. There might be a reason for that. So thank you guys.
Welcome back to Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie. I am Sharon Reed alongside Yasmin Aliya Khan, filling in for Doc today. Appreciate you, TYT community, the most powerful one out there. Free thinkers. And that makes for great conversation. So let's get to some of your comments. TYT members first. Andrew Martinez with a question. I think it's a valid one, Yaz. I wonder what new felonies he's going to commit for his second term. Donald Trump, the incoming president, sentenced, no jail time, no fines, no probation, but still a convicted felon. It's a good bet. Maybe Vegas will take it up and we can all get in on the action, Andrew. Be Like Denmark says, also, we have access to the giant faucet in Canada. Did anyone explain to Trump that it's actually full of maple syrup? He doesn't read the data. He doesn't, they give him that report. Every president gets that. You got to read this, get up early so you're ready for your meetings. He doesn't know anything about anything. Although I do suspect that his interest in Greenland and Panama and the canal and Canada may have only to do with his own pending business deals. And, that's why he wants this done. If somebody could look into that. He doesn't give disclosures. Nostra Science says, wouldn't it be funny if the U.S. invaded Canada and Canada won? Then implemented universal health care here. They've got a good health care system there. I will say that. We just don't want war, but if it's going to happen, who knows? Lynn says, I wish Musk and Zuckerberg valued morality and humanity as much as they value money. It's not going to happen, Lynn. It's not going to happen, but I concur. Neil Whittington, thank you for your contributions. Appreciate you very much. All hail King Trump. Although it's a small T and you capitalize the R, I'm sure it was just, because when I first looked, it said rump. I'm sure it wasn't not intentional. Fraud, womanizer, felon, insurrectionist. Okay, it was intentional. Who wants to take control of Greenland and Canada? World thinks we're idiots. Amendment 14. Thank you for that. Kendrick Simmons, good evening to you as well. Busy Bee, Sharon and Yaz, Girl Power. And Big Den Piccolo, Sharon and Yaz. Heart, heart. No surprise about the verdict, Valerie Vaughn. Yep. And hello, Indisputables. So says Devil Dog Dragon. Let's see. No, I have to answer this one. A Stick Man Grit, thank you very much for your contribution. Sharon, please tell me you ain't driving around in this mess. If UPS is shut down, and we are, don't nobody need to be on the road for anything other than an emergency. Oh, I don't go out. I'm not even going to check the mail today. So no, you don't have to worry about, and it would be a worry. You don't have to worry about me being on the road. Twitch, quickly. Who's your daddy? 89. Trump's get out of jail free card on sale for only $49.99. Feels like that, doesn't it? We'll get back to your comments, but we're going to move on. Rule number one, in fact, I won't even go out with someone who is disrespectful to a server at a restaurant, but rule number one to me is when someone has the ability to handle your food, even if they're, a little off, be kind, be decent, be patient. Dummy, you don't want to offend anyone who can handle your food. But when your emotional quotient is so low and you lead with emotion, bigotry, racism, well, you didn't get rule number one. I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
You're still free! Back off!
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Out of here. Go freaking make
Best, go get back in your car, dude.
Bro. So you don't want to say that to you. That's all on camera, homie. Good job, pal. You lost your job, big dog.
I was paying attention to the jersey. There was a famed retired it in a New York Yankee. I don't think it was him. But let's get that out of the way. But this is how you don't behave. If you're ever in a drive-thru that's taking too long, that's the norm in Atlanta. Okay. Then you get up to the window and they're like, we ain't got no Coke. We ain't got no fries. Okay. And you just say, okay, well, thank you. Thank you. You don't do that. What strikes me along with the stupidity is the fearlessness, yes. These people, I would think, would be worried that they're going to run into the wrong person one day who will rightly feel like they can stand their ground. They'll feel threatened and maybe they'll take action. But it seems like they go through life, these Karens, in this case, a male Karen, thinking that there'll be no consequence for their actions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Karens are a type, right? They feel impervious for reasons, and I will let you and our audience members speculate as to what those reasons could possibly be. But yeah, I mean, people say that's the type of person who needs to get knocked around a little bit for, I'll say that as far as being PG. And it's true. Like people who behave this way are people who have been allowed to behave this way their entire lives, right? And I think right now, modern times, we live in a country, in a society, in a culture that is full of conveniences, right? We're always told that this should be easier for us. This should be faster for us. We're entitled to this. And if we don't get it, then that's a problem. And you have to go fight somebody to get what you're owed. And that type of culture has spawned these Karens that now we all have to deal with. These people who just can't take no or can't be told that they're going to get less than what they want ever, which is fun for us.
Yeah, they live in their own emotional bubble. And he didn't even know the man who was filming in the vehicle could have taken umbrage. And, I don't know. You're scaring me. If the man in the vehicle were also caring, he could have peeled out of there, accidentally hit somebody, thinking, I don't know, he was approaching me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anything can happen.
Everybody's on edge and no one knows what anyone's dealing with. And these people just are out there acting like there are no consequences ever for their behavior. So maybe one day there will be a consequence besides being trolled on this show for these Karens.
Yeah, because I'm tired. They're like wild animals, rabid ones who are just, if you go camping, I don't go camping. It's not my thing. I need heat, air conditioning. I don't like the humidity. I don't like the cold. But if you went camping, they'd say, don't leave your food out because bears or, you're asking for this attack. And I feel like, there they are again. Cannot even get a hamburger without them. You're back, aren't you? Don't feed the Karens. Now, if you are someone who subscribes to organized religion, it serves a purpose in your life, perhaps. At least that's what is supposed to happen. It gets you on the right path, perhaps. Helps you set your integrity, your morality. And repenting is, I guess, part of that, right? Most organized religion. In this next story, the pastor forces a woman to apologize for being pregnant. Here's the video. It's caused outrage online.
I want to apologize to everybody in here because I am pregnant. I'm sorry, y'all. And I just hope that y'all all forgive me and keep on praying for me.
The church praying for you. We ain't gonna condone your sin now. We ain't gonna do that. Ain't no baby showers going on. That's what you lose out at. When you have a baby out of wedlock, ain't no baby showers. And nobody at this church about to attend one.
I had a baby out of wedlock. And I did the news while she grew in my belly. Okay. I ain't answering no questions. And I had me a baby shower. Lots of gifts. Okay. Now we want to be fair here. So that video is part one. Part two, I want the team to cue it up, is where they had the father of the unborn child who also came before the congregation, repented, apologized profusely, and also will be shunned. Can the team roll it? Does that? Well, but you didn't. There's no video of the father because, of course, they only attacked this poor woman and her unborn child. Okay, organized religion. If it works for you, that's wonderful, and some, I guess, it's great. You're threatening people not to go to a shower and holding her up as a sinner. Wow. The internet is outraged after a clip of a Virginia church service has now gone viral. In the video, Pastor Terry W. Jackson of True Vine Apostolic Church brings a young, unidentified woman to the podium to apologize to the whole congregation for being pregnant out of wedlock. Do you know what goes on in churches? Okay, then the deacon done did this, and over here somebody, but okay, Pastor Jackson, The mother of the woman spoke out defending the church after the video went viral, writing, "To everyone that's concerned, we greatly appreciate it. However, I do want you to know that you all are interrupting my peace and it's causing more damage than good. You are showing up, disrupting my church, my beliefs, and disrespecting my pastor who disrespected your daughter. I am where I want to be, where I choose to be. We were not forced or manipulated to stand before the congregation. My daughter willingly approached the congregation and was welcomed and embraced with open arms. And now she was shunned and told she would not have a baby shower. But okay. I stand on what I've been taught, and I'm raising my daughter to do the same. I stand with my pastor." Thank you, D. Miles. In response to the mother's statement, this user wrote, "Mother of the young lady who was forced by Pastor Terry W. Jackson to apologize publicly for being pregnant out of wedlock speaks out. She ain't S. Just like the pastor ain't S. She might be." Well, then this poster is very angry, alluded to perhaps there was something untoward going on between Pastor Jackson and the mother. We have no evidence of that, but one can speculate and cast doubt and aspersion. It's good for you. It's good for me. This poster wrote, "Lord, I didn't know they still do this. I hate how this would reach so many people and keep them turned away from the church. This is so wrong and has always been wrong." I thought it was about forgiveness. And then I see this one commercial that flashes up that says, "Jesus loved all of us. Jesus especially loved the sinners," I think it says. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Some kind of public service announcement, religious based, but that's what I thought was in the Bible. Another poster wrote, "Making a teen girl come up to the front of the church to apologize for being pregnant out of wedlock makes me want to burn every church down." We don't do that. Don't. Metaphorically, hypothetically speaking, not going to do it. I'm going to put that out there. Finally, another poster wrote this. "And people wonder why so many in the younger generations don't go to church. Who are they for her to be apologizing to? Everyone in there has and still sins. No sin is greater than the other. Why is the boy or man never made to go up there? The world hates women and girls. It does feel that way." Okay? Pastor Jackson. Attendance at Black churches, it is indeed declining. Black churches across the country struggling to get younger congregants through the doors. Church membership has plunged among Black adults by almost 20%. 20% in the last 2 decades, according to Gallup. And among the Black millennials and members of Generation Z who do attend religious services, about half do so at majority Black churches, compared with 2/3 of Black baby boomers and members of the silent generation. That's according to a Pew Research Center survey. You know, this is pathetic, of course, and that's why I'm a dramatic person, but if it's a sin, right? So where's the young man? Neither one of them should be made to apologize. This should be a support system. Because what you do when you do this, among the things you do is also have a child who enters the world stigmatized and bastardized. This is what really going on here. I don't know why people feel, well, I guess I do understand, yes, why people feel drawn to organized religion instead of, or in addition to a one-on-one relationship with the God they choose to worship or none at all. But to be drawn to people like Pastor Jackson, to the point where that's your child, Mom, and even you are participating in this and defending this, that part makes me so curious. What say you?
Yeah. Am I muted? Okay. Yeah, I have a lot of problems with organized religion. I get the community aspect of it, But that's really about it. That's the only justification that I can have for something like organized religion. I do not, just to be clear, I don't have a problem with people attempting to make sense of this insane reality that we exist in. I don't have a problem with people trying to deepen their spiritual connection, whatever that means for them or whatever that looks like to them. None of us know what we're doing here or why we're even here. So it makes sense that people would ponder something like that. But this, whatever this is, the girl being made to apologize for living her life in a way, she's already dealing with the repercussions of her actions. She knows what happened. She knows how she feels about it. She doesn't need to be publicly shamed for it. And then the pastor telling the whole congregation that no one better go to a baby shower for that girl. How is this godly? How is this good and just? The thing I never understand about organized religion, and I think I'm speaking more specifically about Christianity here, just because it's so prevalent in this country and now in our government. It's not a closed club, right? They're constantly trying to recruit people into their club. They want there to be more Christians. They're going around the world trying to get people to give up their ancestral beliefs and replace them with these Christian beliefs. That's how much they want everyone to be a Christian. They act like they're the best people out there and that everyone should want to be just like them. But at least in this country, being a Christian doesn't make you special. Anyone can become a Christian if they wanted to. Those of us who are not Christians are not because we don't want to be. That's a choice that we're making. And that one tweet that you read said it all. Stories like this one do not help to endear people to the church. But inevitably, there's always people apologizing for churches behaving badly. It's like a very not all churches type of apology, but it's every church, Christian or otherwise, that I have personally encountered or interacted with. So until I see differently, that I'm not going to be swayed.
Yeah. And isn't it a simple thing, right? There's so much ugly out there. Isn't the church supposed to be a place of support, empathy, comfort, teaching, bettering of oneself? That's across the board with any organized religion. These are the principles that are put forth, but we're seeing all too often that there's this, again, hypocrisy is the word of the day. When we talk about the overwhelming, it's beyond the word scandal of the Catholic Church and how they handled the most vulnerable and what was being done by priests. How they handled that. I mean, that's not godly. That's not of this moral teaching. It's stunning, right, Yas?
Yeah, and those principles that you listed are great, but you're only allowed to partake or benefit from those benefits and that empathy and charity and compassion if you decide to believe everything that they tell you to believe. Right? It's very, very conditional love. They say, oh, we're going to extend this empathy to all people. Sure, they say that, but we don't see that, right? We very rarely see that. Most churches that we see these days, they spend a lot more money on their production value for their Christmas pageants than they do on actually donating to the charity. And they're tax havens also. Like, let's not forget that these are businesses. And I know people who are very involved in their churches, and they are run like businesses, less so than as any kind of charitable endeavor or any kind of communal endeavor. So until we see differently, I'm of course something like that happened.
If you're perfect, then if you only take perfect people, then what's the need for religion? And let's not even get there with the tithing. It's now like, it's not in private. We're watching you. Did you give 20% gross of your gross? And then they put up on this big jumbotron about you can cash app such and such. And then there'd be a second one. I went to this one years and years ago, a mega church in Ohio, where it was, now this next offering is not tax deductible, but it's for the first lady because it's her birthday. I never went back, okay, because I had to write a check and I didn't feel comfortable doing that. So I just didn't go back. This is indisputable. Yasmin Aliya Khan is with us today as our special guest co-host. I'm Sharon Reed. Dr. Ritchie has earned the day off. Much more to come.
I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm at a Wolfpack gathering.
We're growing. I see faces that I recognize, but I also see a lot of faces that I don't recognize, and that's fantastic.
We are all taking time out of our lives to be here, and that's amazing. That means we truly believe in this. Make no mistake, everyone in this room is a leader in a Wolfpack.
Alaska, West Virginia, Montana, Georgia, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, everyone is here. All these folks paid with their own money and sometimes took vacation days to come here to strategize on how to get our democracy back and get money out of politics.
Or you get more political power just because you have more money. This is why it requires a constitutional amendment.
The process of winning in your state next year doesn't begin when session begins. It begins right now.
To work to a goal, something this big that you're actually making a difference of, there's very few things in the world that really compare to that feeling.
Equal rights, a fair representation, rights for human beings, anti-corruption laws, and free and fair elections. That's what we are fighting for.
What were the founding fathers? Revolutionaries. And they built revolution into the document.
So Article 5 is the way we have to go.
This is how you do it.
You're in this as a team. You're in this together. The fight will always continue.
That fight is not between the left and the right. That fight is between basically greed and humanity.
So I'm asking you to put differences aside, whether you're conservative or independent or progressive, to join forces to say no more corruption.
You get beyond the fear, you take that first step, and you'll change the world.
What I want to leave you with, of course, is hope. And I want to assure you that if we keep fighting together, we're going to win together. We're going to get that convention, we're going to get that amendment, and we're going to get our democracy back. Come join us, wolf-pack.com.
Cenk Uygur is not here today, which means that I will be able to talk during the show.
We'll see. We'll see.
Poor Cenk, under the bus.
My God, if Jesus came back, how much would the Republicans hate him? So now you have to give away all of your possessions to the poor. Steve King would be like, oh, Weezy. Everyone should be lucky enough to have a John Iadarola in their life.
You confused everyone?
Okay, sorry. I thought it was pretty clear.
Take a break now.
You can turn me to Dr. Manhattan as long as I get what Dr. Manhattan's packing, okay?
The liberal mom says, Mark Thompson, have you ever thought about doing one of those tapes that soothe people to sleep? Like Mark Thompson reads the phone book. I'd buy it.
If you'll buy it, I'll do it.
Emilio D'Amelio writes in, John, you are so thick. I love you. That's what he wrote.
Pork Chop Express writes in and says John Iadarola needs a new jacket.
Whoa.
Those 24-inch pythons are about to burst out of his sleeve.
Gun, baby. You know, the two people here said that their moms were both in love with you over Beauty and the Beast.
Mm-hmm. That's an improvement. I usually get grandmothers.
Charlie Turk.
No, wait a minute, don't you dare.
Chemical castration when we return from the break.
I hope that, who they choose for the White House isn't just a borderline Klansman. That's all we gotta hope.
That's it, we will settle it.
She's cute. I didn't say that about Laura Ingraham.
Scandal at TYT. Did Anna comment on my tan yet? No, she hasn't.
You're a good bosser.
But Anna did say that I come in here today with a fresh mind. That's all I'm about. I'm about a fresh mind.
I can't with you right now. Okay?
She just can't. She can't, but nonetheless, we have to for another 3 hours. I'm back, baby. Let's rip into Republicans. You don't miss the live show.
That's great.
Tell people, if you're a member, you get the whole live show whenever you want, because this stuff doesn't go into any of the clips.
Welcome back to Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie. I am Sharon Reed alongside Yasmin Aliya Khan. Today we're in for Doc, and we appreciate you. The comments are flowing, so you're finding the content interesting, and so many of you have a lot to say. So TYT members first, about Donald Trump saying that he may take Greenland, the Panama Canal, and Canada by force, perhaps. V says Panama has remodeled and redone the canal since 1914. It is not the same canal. Panama might not have any army, but what it does have is Panamanians. And they take that canal seriously. This isn't 1989. They're not going to roll over and let the orange fool take things over. 47/45, or 45 and 47, lives too much in the past. That's where he's most comfortable. Make America great again. Let's go back to that. Winter Scoop says Trump is only interested in Greenland, Canada, and Panama because his donors, want to have it for resource exploitation. Yeah, pretty much. Andrew Martinez about the church who made the unwed pregnant woman stand before the congregation and apologize with her mother defending that behavior. They're not praying for her, they're shaming her. The fact that she is defending the pastor, the mother, shows just how powerful indoctrination is when it comes to religion. Purple Rain Dragon, of course, that's not a thing. I saw this blank in church several times. That's why I stopped going to that church. About Jesse Waters and the whole Greenland, whatever Trump says, Jesse regurgitates. So hearing no makes him want to do it even more. Imperialist, Jesse saying America should take over everything, basically. This guy has a seriously effed up understanding of consent. Okay, it's true. On YouTube, Snack Panther is asking the question, is there anywhere to move to get away from the orange crush? And Night Eater says all these Karens think they tough by belittling these kids. Yeah, that's why it would be funny if he got out of the vehicle at the drive-thru and The Rock was on the other side of the window saying, "Can I take your order?" Okay. But that's what they do. We'll move on. What do you call a man who attempts to shoot up a national park facility in the name of a white nation? Racist? You call him a racist man. The man who attempted to shoot up a national park facility with 200 people had a desire for a white nation, according to court documents. I think we should show his picture now. Looks the part. New details have emerged about the Yellowstone National Park shooter, who federal authorities say attempted to carry out a 4th of July terrorist attack when he opened fire on a dining facility filled with 200 people last summer. The friends at Atlanta Black Star giving us the details. Newly released court documents reveal 28-year-old Samson Lucas Barria Fusner had a history of sharing white supremacist views online and with family members. "This year may well be my last," he wrote in the March 2024 post. "I do not believe in suicide, but I do believe in a last stand." Now, according to those asset forfeiture court filings, Fusner was an active member of the Vanguard News Network, a website forum dedicated to white supremacist and anti-Semitic views that the Southern Poverty Law Center identified as a neo-Nazi hate group. March 2024, Fusner took to the forum to discuss his depression and loneliness with other Vanguard members, stating that he was, quote, on the precipice of a breakdown, and reiterating his belief in and desire for a white nation, while lamenting his inability to connect with others, court documents state. Well, maybe because you're so nasty and hate-fueled that people are staying away from you. It could be one theory. Just one. Fusner, who is originally from Florida, also wrote that he wanted to become employed in a nice, white, mountainous area or state park to expose himself to different white people, adding, "If I am still unable to make something of that experience, look forward to someday seeing me in the news." Just days before the July 4th attack, he texted his brother complaining about his mental health, his problems with women, and the Yellowstone area. Using slurs to describe the area's racial makeup from his perspective, he texted that the community is 80% J1s. I think we know what the J stands for. 50% where he disparages Asians, 30% Hispanics. Whites seem to have disappeared. Very odd hellscape I'm in. After sharing that he, quote, can't do it anymore, he told his brother of his plans to carry out an Independence Day shooting in an area where there are fireworks because crowds there will be easy targets. The night of July 3rd, he used a knife and a handgun to hold a woman who rejected his romantic advances hostage in her dorm room for 2 hours, using that time to rant about immigrants, African Americans, and Jews and how they were negatively affecting the country. Again, this is in the court documents. Now, he shared his plans to carry out a mass shooting at the employee dining room in Canyon Lodge and the fireworks display at West Yellowstone, Montana. So he's plotting, he's planning, and he's talking about it. Court documents say that he also shared that he thought all blacks were evil and reported hating Jews. Fusner left the dorm room shortly after the woman's roommate showed up. Once he left, the victim called security, informing them of the hostage situation and Fusner's plans to carry out a mass shooting. National Park Service rangers spent that night searching for Fusner, but were unsuccessful. They continued their search the next morning, posted guards at the Canyon Lodge dining facility. On July 4th, the rangers spotted Fusner approaching the dining hall armed with an assault rifle. After ordering him to stop, Fusner aimed his weapon at a ranger and fired, leading to an exchange of gunfire that resulted in Fusner's death. One ranger was shot in his right foot, had to undergo several surgeries that resulted in the loss of multiple toes, but no one else was hurt. So, beyond being radicalized, but that's where it begins, you have the grievances of a white man who wants to portray any issue he has with the opposite sex, job search perhaps, making human connections, friends with others, as the fault of people who don't look like him. It's the minorities, the black and brown people, the Asians did it. White grievances, because they've been legitimized. Listen, anybody's allowed to have a grievance, right? You're allowed to see the world through your lens. But the fact that it's this lie is being told that any issue you have as a white man in America must be because minorities are taking from you what you not just deserve, what is your birthright. That's been legitimized. And I believe, it's my personal opinion, I'm not a social scientist, but I believe that that leads to more of this kind of radicalization and the vocalness of it as well. What say you, Yes?
Yeah, he says things like he wants a white nation and he wonders why people don't want to be friends with him. Other white people can still recognize him as being hateful. Even if he wants to be their friend, they're not going to want to be his friend. And it's not surprising that he held a woman at gunpoint who, just because she didn't want to be involved with him romantically. This type of behavior has patterns. It turns up across various situations in life. So of course he's going to react this way to a woman who he apparently feels entitled to, and he can't have it. He's being told no. And I'm not a mental health expert and I don't want to misspeak, but I can't say that I'm surprised that this guy who was so unintelligent and so hateful had issues with his own mental health. He alienated himself with his hatred and with his stupidity, because you really have to be kind of not smart to believe the things that he was believing. And he was lonely because no one wanted to be around someone who is hateful, because hateful people are unstable people and they're unpredictable and they're often dangerous, or they can be. So good for those people for keeping their distance from him. The irony of that statement that I just made, though, is that if he had had some friends, that would have prevented a lot of these things. If he wasn't so lonely, that would have prevented a lot of could have potentially, I don't want to say would have 100%, but it could have potentially prevented a lot of the things that have transpired in his life. Because a lot of the people in this country who are searching for these online communities, it's because they don't have a community in real life, right? And that I did say, the one good thing I have to say about organized religion is that it does provide a community for certain people. And, we can get into the reasons why we don't have community as much in this country anymore. And there are a lot of reasons: infrastructure, culture, society, all kinds of things. But at the end of the day, people are feeling very, very disconnected from each other, especially in a time when we're supposedly the most connected that we've ever been with social media, but it's not real. It's not a real connection. And we're especially seeing a loneliness epidemic with men in this country, younger guys, this man's exact demographic, as a matter of fact. Problems like this isn't even, I wouldn't say, a gun control issue. I mean, obviously it is, right? But that's not like the root cause of this. This is a problem with our culture that we have built. And it's not going to be an easy fix. Just like people need to be happier and they're not happy.
Yeah, and reinforcing, as I said, this white grievance, this false narrative that everything that's wrong in your life is the result of Black and brown people. It isolated.
It's ignorant.
It's ignorant. And when you say not very bright, I agree with you, because what he's doing is, once isolated, he's having these perpetual conversations in his own head. He's formulating this story. And the only time he seems to be talking about it out loud, although I wonder why the brother didn't do something, but maybe he did, and it's not in the story, but is when he joins these online communities with other like-minded thinkers, reinforcing the story that's going on in his own head. So happy that nobody else was killed. The other ranger, though, injured in the foot, and the enthusiastic white nationalist dead. Let's move on now here, because it's a fatality as well. One that didn't have to happen, if you believe the woman that called for police to come and help someone who was having a mental health crisis. Chicago police fatally shoot a man suffering from that. The Chicago woman now expressing regret for calling police after they began wildly shooting, killing a Black man suffering a mental health crisis in a hail of bullets at a senior home. The anguish on her face. 57-year-old Black man reportedly shot multiple times by Chicago police officers who responded last week to a 911 call from his girlfriend, who said he was holding a knife and acting strangely. And a Black star with the information. Charlotta Pritchett said at a press conference on Monday that her boyfriend, Timothy Glaze, was having a mental health issue and that police used excessive force when they arrived at her 6th-floor apartment at the Albany Terrace Apartments, a public housing building for seniors in the Little Village neighborhood of Southwest Chicago, around 2 a.m., January 3rd. Pritchett said Glaze, whom she had known for 6 years, was exhibiting an odd demeanor that evening, had a glazed look in his eye, and had been walking around for about an hour holding a paring knife, so she called 911. He sat next to me on the bed with his knife. Like I said, he was treating it like it was a pencil or pen. And I think he said, "I'm not going to hurt you. I just want to talk to you." And I just felt uneasy, Pritchett said. I knew he needed some help I couldn't provide. When police showed up, Pritchett, who had taken refuge in a neighbor's apartment, said she heard police radios and 2 or 3 voices command Glaze to stop, don't move. Then they began wildly shooting, she said. When police arrived and knocked on the door, Glaze confronted and advanced at them with the knife. That is according to a police statement. We'll see if it's true. See if there's body cams activated. Officers then shot him multiple times. They immediately rendered medical aid, but Glaze, who had been shot in the chest, was pronounced dead at the hospital. Now, Pritchett and several community activists who spoke at the conference said Glaze was a small, medically frail man who did not pose a threat to officers. And they questioned why police did not use de-escalation tactics before resorting to lethal force. And she called them, she explained what was going on. Why rat-a-tat-tat on the door? Why not use some kind of negotiation tactics? I don't know. Just a thought. Glaze weighed 125 pounds, was recovering from cancer, moved slowly, according to Pritchett. To come into a senior building with that much firepower when you could tase, you could mace, but him being so small and you all being so big, a couple of you could have just rushed him, grabbed him, she said. Or perhaps some other kind of neutralizing thing. She's now at the other apartment, right, when the police show up. You don't know if there's somebody else in there. She said there wasn't when she left, but you don't know what's going on behind that closed door, except that you've been told someone's having a mental health crisis. I'm not a mental health specialist. But we shouldn't have to be to see what's plainly square in front of us and take a common sense approach to just this thing called life. When you value life, I don't get how we can't advance beyond this narrative that shoot mid-mass, shoot to kill, fire as many rounds as you need to take out someone, whether they're frail, 125-pound, recovering cancer, senior citizen, or the next person. It's barbaric. It's not civilized yet.
It is uncivilized. It's like we've forgotten how to live with one another. We've forgotten what it means to be a human being and what it means to value that humanity within us. And the cops, they're meant to uphold public safety. They're the ones that we are all supposed to call whenever things aren't right. If the situation is out of their scope, they're supposed to get the people that we need to help us, right? Whether that's an ambulance or a firefighter or a referral to someone else, a mental health expert, if that's the case, whatever. But they're supposed to help manage these stressful and or dangerous situations that people might find themselves in. But instead, they so often turn up and just make things so much worse than they already are, or so much worse than they ever needed to be, oftentimes involving deadly weapons and deadly force when like there's just no call for it. There's a reason why people are hesitant to call the cops these days. And you're right, we shouldn't all have to be mental health experts just to exist with one another. Cops shouldn't have to be either. They are not mental health experts. And I get that their jobs already have a ton of uncertainty. And oftentimes that uncertainty can be related to a very dangerous situation in which their own lives are in danger. But I don't know what kind of training they're getting, but the focus should be on de-escalating. Why are they escalating these situations that are already not dangerous? Right? In this case, they were told what was on the other side of that door. They were told that there was a mental health crisis going on. They should have gotten somebody who could help with that. I don't know why guns were even taken out in the first place. I really don't. There are other ways to, if he was like flailing or doing something, there are ways to put somebody down without shooting them and killing them. And the cops, I get that their jobs are stressful. I get that they need to react very often, very quickly to things. And I understand that they need to make very quick decisions. But whatever the reason, the end result is that people who should not be dead are now dead because the cops have killed them.
You knew the situation, and I need to know more. Is there a mental health task force? I mean, this is Chicago. Did you engage with them immediately and try to figure out more? Or did you just come? It sounds like and go rat-a-tat-tat. She heard them. It's not like they went and talked to her. I would go talk to her in person first. Okay? Say, okay, what more can you tell us about this gentleman? Didn't do that, according to the reporting. This is indisputable. Sharon Reed alongside Yasmin Aliya Khan. Dr. Richie has the day off. Still more to come.
Indisputable, exclusive, disputable, exclusive. We brought you this first. No other news agency has this video. No other news agency has this story.
Every week on Indisputable, we do original, exclusive, investigative reporting you'll find nowhere else.
Our reports have been viewed by millions. Hosted by Sean King, Ben Crump, Senator John Ossoff.
You, through your investigative reporting, unearthed very troubling allegations about specific forms of abuse and discrimination in the federal prison system.
We catching these cases on camera. Just imagine the things that we don't see.
Our groundbreaking investigations and exclusive interviews bring you the real voices no one else wants you to hear. We tell the stories.
Imagine a prison that is so racist, the corrections officers contact me. That is a life or death situation being created. A black woman who was driving for Uber was allegedly assaulted by a white male passenger. After we got involved, roughly 24 hours later, the police all of a sudden opened up an investigation. What was going through your mind when bullets were simply flying inside of your vehicle?
Honestly, I thought I was going to die.
Did these officers ever say that you fit the description of somebody they were looking for? Did they say that?
Never.
Okay, that means they lied.
And we want you to be part of our truth-telling movement. Send pictures and video of stories no one else is telling and a 1 or 2 paragraph summary of the story to Indisputable's exclusive tip line at indvideos@tyt.com.
If you have more information about what's happening at this particular facility, please let me know.
Together, we're challenging the system, and together, we're making a difference.
I have the entire background to this story, and it is going to make your blood boil.
Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie, unveiling the truth, empowering the people. Weekdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific.
Welcome back to Indisputable. Dr. Ritchie has the day off. I'm Sharon Reed alongside Yasmin Aliya Khan, our wonderful guest co-host. Quickly, Yas, tell us what you're up to.
Yeah, so we have a lot going on over on Rebel HQ. I am doing videos more regularly now. I know we took some time off for the holidays, and also I've been busy. I've been booked and busy, Sharon.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the main show tonight as well. The first hour, I'll be on with John and Maz Jabrani tonight.
Well, we'll be watching, and you're doing a great job. People love it when you're on. Love your insight. Let's get to this next one. I'm not someone who has participated in drug use, okay? And I'm not even making a judgment when it comes to marijuana. Bob Dylan, Snoop Dogg, Bob Marley, okay, Willie Nelson. They would argue, Bob Marley, if he were here, that it made them more creative. They performed while high on the Mary Jane, weed, whatever. And it chilled them out. And it just made them be able to give you some incredible content that has lived for the ages. That's Snoop, Bob and Willie. If someone's performing surgery and your life is at stake, don't do drugs. I think that's a simple statement. Well, tell it to this doctor, busted for performing surgery while high on cocaine. We're not talking about music. Get into it and tell you more about this foolishness. His name is Nathan Stark. I don't know if he's high in the mugshot. I can only tell you what I think, what he looks like. Right there, before I went under, I'd say, nope, no, Dr. Stark. I think we're going to put this off for a little while. He's a Texas doctor accused of using drugs while performing delicate surgery on his patients. And even though his license was suspended, he could still get it back. Stark was a urologist at Houston Methodist Hospital when he was suspected of using drugs during surgery. According to the Texas Medical Board, Stark participated in several surgeries in August and September of 2024 while appearing impaired. He was suspended September 6, ordered to undergo drug testing. In October, he tested positive for cocaine. Law and Crime giving us the details. Records obtained by KRIV, local Fox affiliate, went into more detail about the Texas Medical Board's accusations against Stark. One of the surgeries in question involved a surgical biopsy on a patient's prostate. In August, Stark was reportedly impaired for that procedure. Final straw was apparently a September procedure that Stark was, quote, absent for all but the last 3 minutes of a surgery for which he was the attending physician. KRIV confirmed with officials at Houston Methodist that Stark was no longer employed at the hospital. Okay. Well, of course there's more. The accusations against Stark were not limited to his medical practice. He also has a rap sheet. According to court documents, Stark has an open criminal case against him after he was charged with assaulting an ex-girlfriend in March 2023. Isn't part of their oath do no harm? That's the Hippocratic oath? Do no harm? Or am I thinking of something different? In that criminal complaint, Stark was accused of pushing the woman with both of his hands, causing her to fall, strike her tailbone back and back of her head against the floor. She reported bruising and chipping a tooth as a result. In addition to the open assault case, Stark was arrested twice in 2007 and 2017 for driving while intoxicated. We have a problem here, and I don't know what kind of background check they do. Southern Methodist is a well-known, almost famed hospital down there. You didn't know any of this about this guy?
I haven't. Oh, sorry.
No, go. I was going to say something nasty, but I shouldn't. Well, he probably showed up with powder on his nose to the interview. If they had an in-person interview, they probably just dismissed it.
Well, no, I don't know about this particular doctor, but yeah, Houston is known for our medical field and for our medical industry. It's one of our major industries here in Houston. It is world renowned. And I was actually telling Sharon during the break to our audience members that I tell my husband at least once a day that we need to move. And like this story, I'm just like, we need to move. But you're right, Sharon, there is a big difference between creating art and performing surgery on somebody's body. But when I first read this story, I thought first about how hard doctors work or how hard they're expected to work. And it really is kind of how long their shifts should be and how productive they should be during these shifts. Those were set by a doctor who was always high on cocaine. Those standards are still widely recognized across the medical field. So these doctors are very often either turning to drugs to help them get through their shifts because they can't do it otherwise. And if it's not cocaine, it's Adderall or something like that. Or they're like fighting for their lives and they're struggling. And I've had friends in the medical field whose bodies have given up on them and said, stop it. Like, this is unrealistic. They're on their feet for sometimes 36 hours at a time. They barely get to sleep. They barely have time to eat. They always have like granola bars in their pockets and they're just shoving it into their face. It's really, it really is unreasonable. And so you do tend to meet a lot of doctors around here in Houston, and they do have some kind of substance abuse issue. So yeah, I mean, I'm not defending this doctor. I'm not saying what he was doing was right, but I'm saying it's part of the culture that you see so often in these hospitals.
And I think you make a strong point because what you said, it's fact. And we've seen the same in the airline industry over stretches that needs to be addressed. You have pilots not earning enough money, some of these smaller carriers in particular. These are jobs where you have to be at the height of critical thinking.
Yeah.
Your training's not automatic to kick in. You have to be ripe and alert for any situation, not just with your eyes open, sleep deprived. And so I think you make a strong point. And now there's this push-pull. We'll tell you more about Dr. Stark, about how you handle these situations, how you navigate them, particularly if there is a community that is stressed and stretched. Stark's license, that's another story. He may still be able to get it back should the Texas Medical Board decide that he cleans up his act. And we need to know what that looks like, okay? Suspension is temporary, but the board stated that allowing Stark to go behind the knife at the moment poses a continuing threat to public welfare. And so while we consider what you said, Yaz, about, again, it's true about this community that is so valuable, so important. They do life-saving work and how there's got to be changes. Okay, there's not enough doctors to go around. It's how do you got to balance that with the public's needs and trust. And that's really the rub here from these industries and these hospitals that earn gobs of money. Mm-hmm. How can we serve the public and serve the very human needs of people who are performing these surgeries? I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, so often the public is the one that loses out on things just because things that we're entitled to, things like medical care, just because it's not feasible to do so. It really is a cultural issue in the medical industry where they're expected to work as hard as they can because it's a way of eliminating people who just can't cut it in the medical field, right? They're saying it's a trial by fire. If you can make it through this and you're good to go. But it's like, why is that necessary though? Why are we pushing ourselves physically and mentally and psychologically to do this thing that it really isn't necessary. But the thing is, there's always the fight also between the doctors and then the hospitalists, the people who are running the hospitals, the admins, the people who are making money off of these hospitals. And let's be real, everything always comes back down to the money, right? And at the end of the day, when you're dealing with something like healthcare, the people their lives are actually being put in danger by somebody else trying to make money off of the system. So doctors are under a lot of stress. Their jobs on their own are very stressful because they're very high stakes, or they can be depending on what branch of medicine you're practicing in. But then you also have things like Press Ganey scores that the doctors constantly have to be worried about, which is basically where you can like rate your doctor, right? Which is kind of crazy because if the doctor did their job, then I don't care how likable they were, honestly, but there is a level of that happening. And then they also have to deal with the admins, and then they have to deal with the insurance company. So their jobs are they're already dealing with more things than most people deal with at their jobs. So again, I wouldn't want this doctor operating on me. Now the story is very public. So even if he does get his medical license back, people are going to know that you're this doctor. But even if your doctor wasn't publicized to have some kind of substance abuse problem, they might, they just might, and you wouldn't know.
You're so right. All these stresses, these are human beings. Remember even where they had the doctors who, you're only allowed 3 minutes a patient. These insurers were putting enormous pressure, but these administrators seem to be making rules based on number crunching and charts instead of real people. Yasmin Aliya Khan, I just love spending time with you and listening to your insight. We appreciate you very much.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Happy to be on.
All right. Dr. Ritchie had the day off. Of course, he will return. And we hope you'll continue to support TYT and continue watching Indisputable. Have a great day.